Hello team and welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today. It's on Seed 9. It's the greatest map in Line War history. We all know this. This is not even a contested fact. On Alpha Team, El Mexican in blue. And on Bravo Team in red is Kartoffelman. So on Seed 9, it's just like one landmass. There's no islands on the right-hand side. There is a reason to get a navy to cap all these water territories. Over time, it could become important. There's a trade route, or rather a network of trade routes in the south, and there are a handful of trade routes on the west-hand side of the map. Mexican goes for a town immediately, and then 3 factories. Probably going to see 3 factory tank from blue, and Mexican's going to build this refinery as the next building, most likely. Relatively decent blind counter to this from Kartoffel, going for 2 factories, tanks, and helicopters off of 1 airport. And then a refinery to keep these energy units going. It is actually a barracks for Mexican first before the refinery, which is like the greedy play to make, but if you don't need to use the refinery, the gas from it, then this is the good play to make. Because then you get a few infantry, you start the barracks quicker, get more units more quickly than if you just go for the refinery first and then wait for this barracks. It is 3 factory tank. All 3 factories going for tanks for blue. First two tanks, pardon me, for red are nearly complete, and the first helicopter is also as well. Barracks timing is relatively similar for both players, and blue will have the eco advantage to start this game because of this town that was built immediately. Second barracks for Kartoffel. So between this airport and the second barracks, the quicker second barracks for red, that is the trade-off for not going for this town first. Kartoffel sees this refinery. I mean, this is red's vision, so all the buildings are detected. Mexican's going to see this and hear this first helicopter, which is target commanding blue's energy. If Kartoffel can destroy this refinery, this puts red in a great position. And the helicopter is going to take some shots, but 1 helicopter isn't going to be able to destroy this quick enough. It'll have to come back. And blue might be able to park out some infantry underneath this helicopter to do some damage. Right now, the blue infantry is more focused on making sure that these tanks don't get by, because the tanks can very quickly finish this refinery, and this is exactly what Kartoffel's trying to do, which I think is the play. It's a high-risk, high-reward play, because diving with these tanks is kind of risky. By losing the tanks, it puts red in a bad situation. That was very close, but thankfully for Mexican, they defend and now have 3 tanks that they can potentially counter push with. The refinery is still low, so this 1 red helicopter might be able to destroy it. It's only a handful of blue infantry that might be able to attack the helicopter. This is the move that Mexican is doing with this blue dot for the infantry to try to park out right underneath the helicopter. You can see these infantry shooting at it. It will take them a while to destroy, but so this is the great play. Is helicopters in all planes, they'll go back to base once they reach a low enough health. So just by this one play alone, potentially saved Mexican in this game, because we don't know what would happen. If this refinery goes down, these 4 tanks aren't able to move. They're not going to be able to snipe this barracks. And now with the tanks at home, or rather the tanks like on red's base, these helicopters are going to go towards the refinery, because the other option was that they'd stay at home to defend against these tanks. I actually like this play for red to just try to dive on the refinery, but the same thing might happen again, where Mexican just has enough infantry to knock this helicopter down to a point where it just automatically returns to base. 3rd helicopter for red is nearly complete. This is what's going on in the rest of the map for capping in the south. Infantry are kind of in position, but great play from Kartoffel. This will give a little bit of breathing room for red, who rebuilds this barracks, and going for commandos out of 1 of the barracks. The SAM switch has now happened for Mexican, building 2 right now, keeping 1 factory, still building tanks. It's kind of, it's an interesting situation. So Mexican is going to build the refinery right here. This territory wasn't complete yet. I wonder if this territory was already capped for blue, if Mohegan would elect to build the refinery there. Because there's nothing really to defend against these tanks because the blue tanks can't move. It's just this handful of infantry. If Kartoffel can destroy this refinery before it gets up again, this could be a game changer. The 2 helicopters for red are going to work on these 4 blue tanks. We'll likely be able to destroy at least one of them because they are pretty low. Fantastic move from Kartoffel to keep these blue tanks from moving. Mohegan's got 2 barracks with commandos. We know that Mohegan's quite good with the commandos, so this could be a great way to swing the momentum back in their favor. If you look at Kartoffel's vision, now that this 3rd tank is destroyed, none of the commandos are actually visible. And generally need 3 units to be able to detect commandos or any stealth units for that matter. And blue gets out without losing any of the production facilities. So this is the play. Mohegan is going to build the refinery down in the south. This is way more safe. The helicopters aren't in range of destroying this refinery. And if Kartoffel wanted to destroy this refinery with tanks, obviously the tanks would have to transit super down to the south, move through like a mountain range or a forest where they'd move more slowly. Tanks kind of have to stay at home for red because once this refinery is up, Mohegan's tanks are going to be able to start moving again. And now with 3 SAMs, it gets a little bit different and dicey for Kartoffel to send the helicopters in to try to help out with this. This is going to be a dive of the 3 tanks. Actually, so a good play from Kartoffel to get 2 of the tanks out, because those 3 tanks are going to be in a lot of trouble if they dove on those producers. And eco-wise, 500 for red, 495 for blue. Very close. This is what top-down looks like, so relatively same number of territories capped. No second town yet for Mohegan, who builds a barracks down by this refinery, which will be able to build, you know, have a little bit of a garrison going to defend this refinery in case red starts sending commandos down there. Just in general for defense and capping. Blue will win this fight in the forest in the north, leaving just 1 squad of 4 for Kartoffel to cap, and kind of exposes this like western flank into red's base. This one refinery is super wide open. I expect that Mohegan's going to send a commando here relatively quickly. It's actually spotted from blue with those refineries with their anti-stealth characteristics, so you can see them through the fog of war without having to get on top of them to actually determine that they are there. Sam's taking on the helicopters. The Sams are in the mountain range, so they probably weren't detected right away. Well, rather, actually, there's 1 red commando, so red would have been able to see this. Commandos have great vision. Red's going to lose a lot of the helicopters, but reset this blue SAM count. I'd expect this helicopter from red to be able to destroy that SAM, and I'm totally wrong. Never been red in my life. But there's only 1 SAM here. If the red helicopters decide to land right on top of this SAM, that's actually like just super bad luck for Kartoffel. 2 commandos from blue doing what they do best, or one of the things they do best, which is piss off your opponent. This will stop all the helicopters and tanks for red from moving. Second refinery already on the way from Kartoffel, so good kind of foresight to realize that this refinery is probably going to go down. Red would need to build a second refinery anyway, going for all these helicopters if the helicopter and tank count remained high. But this is a big moment in the game because now Mohegan's going to be able to destroy these 2 tanks pretty much for free. They're not going to be able to move. And the 1 commando gets out for blue, which just forces red to kind of follow it or risk that it just gets lost on their side of the map. Certainly I would say the momentum is with Mohegan, but a very close game. Income-wise, 565 for blue, 570 for red. And a second barracks in the south for Mohegan. So over time, blue's going to have more units than red in the south. It's just 1 barracks down here for Kartoffel, which isn't quite completed yet. It is 2 commandos out of those blue barracks. And four tanks for Mohican aren't really going to be able to pressure any of these buildings. The refinery for red is completed. So now they'll be able to send the tanks and the helicopters to defend this. It's an interesting thing to consider whether Kartoffel is going to build a second refinery, how quick they build it, and where they build it. There is another energy well down here that Kartoffel could build on, but it is kind of scary. It's just an open field between Blue's producers and this refinery, and we saw that Kartoffel did build a second barracks in the south to match what Mohican has by that blue refinery in the southwest. 2 SAMs is like the perfect number of SAMs to deal with this many helicopters. And it's funny, like this mountain range on Seed 9 seems to be so important. At least like in games that I've played on ladder as well. It's just somehow the way that people spawn and the geography of the map, I always find myself fighting over this mountain range. And in my experience, whoever takes this mountain range generally is in a very good spot in the game. It's now 6 tanks from blue up here. 4 tanks from red. Luckily for red, they got one of the tanks before losing all the infantry. And these 2 SAMs still doing a great job. They are on haste moves, so they're taking a little bit of damage from haste moving themselves. But they do pick up that helicopter, so probably worth it. Now the dance starts to happen about if Kartoffel can snipe these SAMs, and if Mohican can move these blue tanks to defend the SAMs. Kartoffel's going to take this fight, which I think is the right one. It looks like red got a little bit more of a concave to start this fight. It is very close though, 3v3 at this point. Gotta keep watching the south, this is a big part of the game. Certainly if blue were to lose this refinery, it would be a huge deal. Seeing as that's the only refinery that Mohican has. There's another barracks in this mountain range for blue, so both players have 3 barracks in the south. Very tough battle, but red does win it. I would say win it. Certainly if these tanks are able to destroy both the SAMs, then that's a huge win for red. And resetting the SAM count is so important because it forces blue to make more SAMs instead of just staying on tanks. Or going for artillery or some sort of unit that packs, like, in general, a heavier punch on the ground out of the factory. 3 barracks for Mohican. So Mohican actually still has the barracks advantage. I didn't realize that there's a 3rd barracks by this refinery. So blue's going to be able to push back through this forest. Interesting situation. This is a top-down look of where things are being capped. This one squad for Kartoffel is still doing a great job, but Mohican's kind of trailing this squad with 3 commandos to just immediately cap what Kartoffel takes. Income-wise, 640 for red, and 625 for blue. This one commando for Mohican is still just posted up here and would be able to see if this refinery gets rebuilt. This is one commando from earlier that just destroyed the refinery and then dipped out, and now it's just on a move command. It's on a move command so that it doesn't start capping this territory and alert red that there is a unit back there for blue. And this is really good vision for Mohican. Of course, red can't see this commando, there's not enough units around, and then this is Mohican's vision. Kind of keeps an eye out for whether this town goes down as well, and if it does, then it can jump on it. And 2 helicopters in the south for Kartoffel. This is a really big deal. There's now enough SAMs in the north that the helicopters won't be able to do much, so very good play from Kartoffel to send the helicopters down to the south, where they'll be much more effective in handling this commando and infantry army from blue. Commando on commando fight in the north. At this point, both players are going all commandos. It's interesting, whenever, like, playing on ladder, it feels like once my opponent starts going heavy commando or only commando, it kind of forces you to, or it feels like you're forced to go in a little bit more heavy commando play yourself because of the stealth bonus that these units get. Because if you start sending out your infantry to start capping for you, a very good commando player with the micro is able to just pick away at all your units and use that stealth characteristic to their advantage. It's at least my read. Whenever I play Mohegan, it just feels like I have to set all my barracks to commandos, and I don't mind it. I mean, it's fun. It's just a different type of way of playing it. Here come these 3 helicopters from Kartoffel. And a very wide front in this game. This one commando from Mohegan, I still, like, it's so much patience. I would have just yeeted this commando into this airport a long time ago and tried to kill it myself. And I would have just lost the commando, really. Well, we'll see. We'll see if this is exactly what happens, because now the commando is going to sprint towards the airport. It's getting here at a perfect time. For Kartoffel, the commando is in vision, and the sound, of course, is there. Here's the reaction time, so very quick from Red. A commando would be able to destroy this airport pretty quickly. We'll see if these 2 commandos for Red can get there in time. Good breakthrough from Kartoffel through the forest to start attacking this barracks and this factory in the south. It'll be super pardon me, ideal for Kartoffel to destroy these buildings and then, of course, not lose the airport. If the airport gets lost, it's a little bit of a sketchier situation. Obviously, that doesn't happen. So good defense from Kartoffel. That's very quick, in my opinion. 3 helicopters, you can see just exactly what they've done. I mean, it's cleared all of these blue infantry, which kind of opens up Kartoffel to potentially push back into this forest. And now second refinery from Mohegan at this first location. So it feels like that's a sign of confidence from Mohegan. I suppose there's no other real place to build it. You wouldn't want to build it in this location because it's not going to be able to be defended by all these units that pop out of these factories. So I guess it's just a matter of necessity for Mohegan to build here. Still going for 2 factories, building entirely tanks. Great jump in from Kartoffel with 3 helicopters. And maybe it's the big brain play that Mohegan realizes that this refinery would go down, and that's why this refinery gets built in the north. Because 3 helicopters is enough to be able to destroy this in one pass, I believe. Yes. Potentially this one helicopter will get sniped by this commando. See if we can get a lucky trick shot. And no, it gets back. That's a big deal. That's 3 full helicopters that Kartoffel still gets to use in the south. This is something worrying a little bit for Red, is that these blue commandos have cleared up all the Red infantry and commandos in the north. And so Kartoffel will have to send units up here to try to take this territory back. There's 2 helicopters in the north for Kartoffel, one of which is sitting on the airport. 3rd helicopter nearly complete. Energy-wise for Kartoffel, slowly going down. Still going 3 factories, all building tanks. And a very good play from Red to destroy this barracks, which now puts Blue on a little bit of a better position for how many barracks there are. There's still 3 barracks in the south for Mohegan, but it's no longer a 4v3 situation on the barracks counts. This is the moment in the game that matters the most. If Kartoffel, I've said that like 4 times this game. It's been a very close game, but these Red tanks can do so much damage. They're going to be able to get the refinery most likely. They're kind of actually diving on this factory a little bit. They're not quite hitting the refinery. And the SAMs will do decent to be able to take on the tanks, especially when they're damaged. And now this is an interesting situation, because these tanks aren't actually going to get any of these buildings. Maybe these commandos will be able to get one of the factories. But it still means that these blue tanks can keep moving, which is the important part. One of the helicopters for Red was destroyed. We see that one of the factories for Mohican is also taken out. So red has the factory advantage with the starting 3 factories against Mohican's 2. Potentially 1 factory. Great play from Kartoffel. This forces a power plant out of Mohican in the mountain range. This refinery is just so low that it probably will get taken out. This barracks Mohican builds a factory in the mountain range by this one barracks. And the first industries of the game for Kartoffel in the south, in a very safe position. These 3 barracks kind of naturally providing a bit of a defense for all that eco. Great use of the helicopters in the north from Kartoffel, who is building this second refinery again in this location. I mean, he can go for an offensive with the tanks. Pretty good start to the fight. And then somehow, I mean, this one tank for Kartoffel gets out. I don't know how it got out. That's unbelievable. 705 income for blue, 756 for red. Kartoffel in a very good position, specifically because of what's going on in the south. There's still 2 helicopters here for Kartoffel that can continue to start hitting the barracks. I guess this barracks actually isn't detected for red at the moment. Sam's taking on the tanks. There's enough red tanks here that this is a tough fight for the blue Sams. And when the blue Sams go down, it's going to open up these helicopters that just attack towards the central part of the map. And the toughest part for Mohican is that there's only 1 factory here. So it would only be able to be 1 factory building Sams. The second factory is nearly done. Blue building this economy on the left-hand side of the map. And the north, with the help of the helicopters, Kartoffel's getting a little bit of a handle back here. And we'll start to be able to take away all this economy from blue in the north. Helicopters are what is very likely going to win this game now for Kartoffel. This is a great play, by the way, I think. I mean, these folks both high up on the ladder have played this game for a long time. Very worthy opponents. Town for Kartoffel, realizing that they are a little likely ahead, so they're able to build this economy to get themselves further ahead. And we can check the income, 766, if I read that right, for Kartoffel, 769 for Mohican. Certainly, like, operationally with the units, red has the momentum here. And with the income pretty much tied, I think that Kartoffel just now pushes, and this game will slowly spiral out of control. But a very close game on the best map in Line War, Seed 9. Helicopters doing what they do best, sniping units and sniping buildings without any SAMs around. If Seed 9 isn't the best map, comment below what the best seed is. What's the best seed you've seen in Line War, both for team games 1v1? And it better all be Seed 9, or else you're just lying. 816 for Kartoffel, who's running out of gas. 917, or pardon me, 719 for Mohican on the income. This one factory is building SAMs. This is the big deal. 4 tanks from Kartoffel get by, destroy the power plant, will also get the town, which will propel red even further ahead on the income part of things. And Kartoffel is starting to deal with the low energy, still building 3 tanks at a time. Mohican's commandos are heading down here to check. I forgot to turn the commands back on, but it just... this is what both players are thinking at the moment. Just a big pushing posture from red, capping all this territory again. Kartoffel's vision, one of the barracks is seen, so this will naturally kind of attract these red units who will then see this factory. with the amount of helicopters that Kartoffel now has on the map, it's like Mohican can't just show up with like 3 SAMs to try to defend against this. This is the toughest part about this. Now that there's this many helicopters that Red has accumulated at this point of the game, Mohican would definitely need like a full dot of SAMs, and that's going to be pretty like untenable at this case, like this point of the game. 2 SAMs at a time, and GG. Well played both. Very well played both. Let's check out some graphs. Let's see just how close this was. And like most Line War games, especially 1v1, it was extremely close until it wasn't. Income-wise, very close. There you go. Well played both. If you'd like to learn more about the game, check out the Line War Discord. Check out the channel, like and subscribe, comment. Of course, it all helps the channel grow. Thank you for the support. Twitch.tv/SodaQuackers, to say it every time. Monday and Wednesday, we stream there. I hope you have a wonderful night, evening, day, whatever it is. Enjoy. Peace.